Hey, hello, how do you do? Shady Doorags here, and welcome back to another episode of Season Rundown, where I, Shady Doorags, review the various episodes of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic and give you guys how I personally feel about each and every episode of the season. Now this time we're going to be doing Season 5, which at this point in time I was well knee-deep within the fandom, so I was closely paying attention to every episode and firmly getting an opinion. And I have a lot of strong feelings about this season for various reasons. So let's go ahead and get into the first episode, which is the Cutie Map. This starts off with the main six inside Twilight's new castle trying to figure out exactly what the whole purpose of it all is. And they discover the Map of Harmony. And the Map of Harmony is a device that's used to tell them where friendship problems is. And at this point in time, it points all six of them to our town. And I really like the Map of Harmony, the concept during this episode. My mind will eventually change, but we'll get to that when we get to that. But I said this before, I like it when a series feels like it has a destination, and the Map of Harmony helped that. You know, it felt like there was a purpose to the Friendship Council. So anyway, it sends them to our town, and they get to our town, and there they meet Starlight Glimmer. Yeah, I have feelings about this character that are pretty infamous on this channel, or famous, depending on if you agree with me or not. But yeah, so they meet Starlight Glimmer, and they find out that she is converting everyone to her beliefs that talents are bad and being special is bad, which in the My Little Pony universe is all linked to cutie marks. So she ultimately believes that cutie marks are evil, and she takes away people's cutie marks, essentially taking away their talent, and replaces them with equal size, making everybody pretty much equal. And the main six are, eventually she does it to the main six, but she does it by force, not by choice. And they get all their talents taken away, which means they're pretty much useless in trying to defeat anybody in the town. But then they eventually discover that she didn't take away her own cutie mark, and they use that against her to convince the town to turn on her, and the town bands together to save the main six, and Starlight vanishes into the night to fight another day, etc., etc. Now, throughout my past season rundowns, you've heard me constantly say, oh, this is a good season opener, but it's not really my favorite. Oh, that's a really good season opener, but it's not really my favorite. This time, this season opener is my favorite. This is my favorite season opener. And I know that's probably really shocking to a lot of people, considering Starlight Glimmer, of all characters, is introduced in this episode. But if you remember my review on Starlight Glimmer, I did not hate her as a villain. I did not hate her as a villain, and I still feel that way. I still feel that Starlight Glimmer was a really good villain. In fact, Starlight Glimmer is my favorite villain. I think she was the best villain. And when I say the best villain, I mean arguably she and Discord match, but I like her more than Discord as a villain. I loved her in this episode. And the reason for that is, with each villain that has come up, we've had some really powerful villains that the main six or somebody within their group had to use either the power of friendship, the power of love, or some MacGuffin to defeat the villain. This time around, Starlight Glimmer had to be outsmarted, not overpowered. Starlight Glimmer in herself in this episode was not actually that powerful. She learned a spell that took away their powers, which made her a threat, because once their powers were taken away, they couldn't do anything to her. And so the fact that they had to outsmart her really stuck with me as her being a really good villain. And the way they outsmarted her was really good. It stuck with their character. Say it with me. The 3 C's of fiction. Character, continuity, and consistency. I love how they did it in this season opener, where they're discussing, they're like, oh, we're trapped in this town. We have to find a way to get our cutie marks back. Oh, well, we could tell Starlight Glimmer that we converted. She's not going to believe any of us have converted in one day. Well, she'll believe Fluttershy. It makes so much sense that Fluttershy, throughout this whole episode, had been accepting of this culture and would be the one believed to have converted. I really like that about the episode. that they did it like that, and that you know, Starlight Glimmer, even though she's really clever, she does have her weaknesses. She wants her philosophy to gain as much power as possible. So believing Fluttershy was easy enough for her, and then once Fluttershy came in, starting to believe Twilight was also an easier step to take. It was a gradual process, you know, it wasn't sudden or anything like that. It's a really good job there. One complaint that a lot of people have been having throughout the series past before this was that the main six are the focus too much. There should be focus on other characters, and this episode does that, and I think it does a good job of it without just shoving the main six aside. You know, it puts them in a situation where they need to be rescued, but at the same time they are active in the plot. The new characters were interesting for what they were. You know, we don't really see them much after this. But yeah, I'm trying to make sure I'm covering everything, because this is my favorite season opener. Oh, one thing. Starlight Glimmer, I've said in a past video that, I believe it was one of my Justice League videos, that hypocrisy is one of the traits I cannot get behind any character. Whether good or bad, I cannot get behind that character. I think it's one of the traits that nobody can see as a good trait. But here I am praising the qualities of Starlight Glimmer, who essentially says cutie marks are evil, but won't take away her own. And the reason I still don't consider it hypocrisy, and here's why. In my headcanon, Starlight Glimmer is a lot like the Spectre from the DC Comics. In the Spectre, there was one arc in the Spectre's story where he tried to destroy every magical being in the DC universe. And when he was confronted by another magical character, that magical character said, well, what about you? You're magic. You use magic. He said, yes, I am a magical creature. I'm going to destroy all the magical creatures, and then when I'm the last one left, I'm going to destroy myself to make sure my mission is fulfilled. And if you know the Spectre's character, you know he's not lying about something like that. That's what I feel Starlight Glimmer would have done. If she could have converted all of Equestria to her philosophy, in the end, she would have taken away her own cutie mark. Now, again, that's headcanon. I can't prove that. For all I know, she was there for the power. She was being a true hypocrite. But if I am right, then she's not really being a hypocrite. She's just trying to stick to the best plan and dealing with a necessary evil until the end, where she would definitely get rid of it. So overall, like, I really cannot find flaws to nitpick about this episode. Like, I can nitpick about a lot of things, but not really this episode. Maybe I'll think of some down the line, but this was such a good season opener. The villain was good. The main six were good. The side characters were good. Oh, one more thing. I also liked that Starlight wasn't super powerful. I think I said that. No, I said I liked that she was clever, but I didn't say I liked that she wasn't super powerful. I loved that Starlight wasn't super powerful. That she was just another unicorn. And I liked that when she tried to use her magic against them, Twilight instantly blocked it. That makes so much sense. Twilight's talent is magic, and she's an alicorn. That just makes a lot of sense, that even if Starlight had this super magical, powerful being, Twilight would easily block it. So overall, really good episode, really good season opener, and a great start to the season, if I do say so myself. Episode 3, Castle Sweet Castle. I accidentally, when I was watching the episode, skipped the first 2 episodes, and I thought this was the season opener. But even still, after watching this episode, I thought it was a really good season opener, because there was that whole hullabaloo about last season, about how this new castle was here, and it just didn't fit. I still feel like it doesn't fit, but this episode does help to soften the blow of the new castle. So in this episode, the Twilight doesn't really want to go to her new castle, because she feels that it doesn't feel like home, like something's just off. Which, I don't know, it might be the nod to how the fandom was feeling, because not a lot of people really like that new castle. And what the main 5 decide to do is they decide to send her away to some place while they fix up the castle. And they bring up all the stuff that makes them feel at home. And during this whole time, they're singing this song, which I really like the song. At first I didn't when it first started, but as it went on, I really started to enjoy it. And throughout this time, I was just screaming at the main 5, like, guys, she likes books. She loved living in the library because she loved books. Just put fill the place with books. It's such a simple solution. And then they go through this whole ordeal where they're trying to keep Twilight out, and that part kind of made me cringe because I was like, just tell her you need more time. I don't know why this is such a big deal. But I have seen, you know, situations where you're trying to get a gift right, but you want to make sure you get it right. But still, this didn't feel like one of those situations to me. Maybe it was, but it didn't feel like it to me. Anyway, so I was screaming the whole books, do books. But the reason I love this episode so much is because the conclusion they come up with was so fantastic and so unexpected, which is like the epiphany of getting someone a good gift. You give them something they didn't even know they wanted, and it's so amazingly good. Digging up the roots of the tree and using it as a chandelier, that was just fantastic. And filling it with memories, that was great. They also say they decorated the other rooms, but I don't have any memories of those decorations being really distinct. Like, I was excited to see them when they said that, but I don't, watching season 5 and season 6, I don't remember like seeing those rooms and thinking, oh yeah, that totally has the Pinkie Pie touch. Oh yeah, that totally has the Applejack touch, or anything like that. Maybe I just missed it and I wasn't paying attention. But all in all, Castle Sweet Castle, really good episode. This season is doing really good so far with its start. Episode 4, Bloom and Gloom. This is where Apple Bloom is nervous about what her Cutie Mark will be. This episode's okay overall, but it didn't leave that much of a big impact on me. There are a couple of things I could say about this episode. One, I'm glad Luna was in it. Luna finishing her thing with the CMC. You know, she helped the other two CMCs. Now it's time for Apple Bloom to get her turn. The message is good. You know, if you're worried about yourself, you know, that's something people go through, but at the same time, you come to a realization that you really shouldn't worry too much about yourself. But one thing that disappointed me about this episode was that voice that was whispering to Apple Bloom. I was hoping it was going to be Starlight Glimmer. I was hoping we were going to get another overarching plot with Starlight Glimmer, like manipulating people to go against Twilight, because you know this was all about cutie marks, and the voice was whispering to Apple Bloom, like making her think cutie marks was a horrible thing. I was really hoping that was going to be Starlight Glimmer, but no, it just turned out to be Apple Bloom's inner voice. So overall, it's a decent episode. Didn't really stick with me too much, but still a decent episode. Episode 5. Ooh, Thanks for the Memories. Oh, thanks for the memories. Man, did this episode hit people. So this is when Rainbow Dash finds out that Tank is going to hibernate throughout the winter, and she gets really, really, really upset about it, to the point that she tries to sabotage Winter. So this episode, originally when I was watching it, I was super annoyed at Rainbow Dash, because I'm like, your pet is just going to sleep for the winter. Why are you making such a big deal about this? But then when it got to the scene where she started crying, like I had an epiphany. I was like, why are you crying? And you're crying so hard. Like the only time I've seen people cry this hard is when somebody they know died. And then it just like, everything just hit me. Like flashbacks of the episode came to me and I was like, oh my goodness, it's an allegory. And a lot of people figured it out too. But I think they figured it out sooner than I did, because I had to wait till that crying scene, because that show enough reminded me of funerals, and the irony of, if you saw my last season rundowns with the last Tank, why I love the last episode with Tank. There's a big irony there, but I think this episode personally it sticks out, but it's not like I'm super happy about it. But I am glad that there is a way that they address grief. And they do it in such a interesting way. Like, I think they did a fantastic job with this episode. I can't say like I was really happy to see it, because I was annoyed most of the time. But I'm glad that it's there. I am really glad that it's there. Also, that who's on first joke was I love who's on first. But yeah, overall, good episode. Even though it annoyed me as I was watching most of it. Once I saw the allegory, I really understood. I said to myself, okay, if that had been me and I've been treating it like the allegory, I would have done the same thing Rainbow Dash had done. Episode 6, Appaloosa's Most Wanted. Okay, so this is when the CMC encounter a criminal named Troubleshoes. and he has this reputation of ruining festivals everywhere he goes. And it turns out that Troubleshoes just has bad luck. It's not that he's intentionally ruining these places, just that everywhere he goes, things fall over all around him, and he runs away out of shame and stuff. And in the end, the CMC help him realize that his Cutie Mark doesn't mean bad luck. It just means that he's, I want to say he's kind of clumsy, but he can do that in a good way. If you've seen my thoughts about, you know, the fear of failure, this kind of sort of relates to them. But overall, I didn't really like this episode too much. There was a very specific reason why, but I'm having trouble thinking. Oh! It was because freaking the CMC didn't speak up when they're like, hey, you kidnapped these little girls. They didn't say, no, he didn't kidnap us. We ran away. It's so annoying. Because you guys know how I feel about that. Just tell the truth. Yes, you will get in trouble, but it'll be less problematic. It's a simple solution. That got on my nerves to no end. They could have ended the conflict right here. No, we ran away. He did not kidnap us. The CMC, to me, during that moment, felt like brats. And I really like the CMC. I do. I like that there are these little kids in this show who actually represent little kids. You know, it's not the main cast are adults in this show, and these little kids actually act like little kids. I really do like the CMC, but this episode they annoyed the mess out of me, man. So all in all, no, I don't like this episode. No. Episode 7. Make new friends but keep Discord. This is where Discord becomes jealous when Fluttershy asks her new friend Treehugger to the Grand Galloping Gala instead of asking him. Overall, it's a good episode, but it's not one that sticks out to me personally. I prefer when Discord is the manipulator. I don't prefer when he's the victim. And not to necessarily say he can't be the victim. I don't think that's bad for the story or anything. I just don't like seeing him as the victim. I like him in a higher position, manipulating the situation. So, Maud was in this episode, though. That was fun. I always enjoy seeing Maud. But this episode can be a lot of fun. Depends on what you like about Discord and whatnot. But to me, it didn't stand out too much because Discord was the victim. And that's not where I want to see him. So, all in all, good episode, but just not one that resonates with me personally. Episode 8, The Lost Treasure of Griffonstone. This is the first, or I guess second episode with where the Cutie Map sends the main 6 to solve a friendship problem. This is when Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie are sent to Griffonstone, and they have to try to solve the problem. And this brings about some aspects of the map, because the map is basically saying, go here, but it doesn't tell them anything. It's super vague. And as somebody who is an active religious person, I am Christian, I understand that aspect of trusting a religious figure without knowing everything. But at the same time, it feels kind of lazy in the writing department, where something vague just say, go here and you will solve the problem. Like, because Celestia did that, but Celestia had visions. So it's like the tree, I guess, just knows. I'm saying the tree, maybe it's the tree made the map, so I'm going to assume it's the tree. The tree just knows. But at the same, like I said, it feels like lazy writing, essentially. Now, to the actual episode itself, it was kind of anticlimactic to me, because, you know, they were making this big deal about Griffonstone, and then it turned out to be just a burnt down town, and then they're making this big deal about the treasure, and then it turned out the actual problem was just getting the Griffins to be nice to each other. I mean, that makes sense, but it's anticlimactic. It's very anticlimactic. So overall, I'm going to say that this is a rather good episode. Pinkie and Rainbow Dash are a good foil to each other. And it was fun seeing Gilda again, you know, especially since you guys probably can't hear that, but my stomach is making weird noises right now. Especially since, you know, they were the ones who had the issues with Gilda. Maybe Fluttershy would have even been an interesting mix, but you can tell where the pattern is going. It's going to be 2 for 2 for 2. So, but overall, just pretty meh for me. Somewhere between meh and good. It was a good episode, but meh. Episode 9, Slice of Life. episode 100. This is where the main 6 pretty much are cast aside, like I was saying before, and the focus is on all the background ponies, all the background characters, and it's just a huge joke to the fandom. Love this episode. Love this episode. I'm not sure what much more there is I can say about this episode that hasn't already been said 920 times. It was such a fun episode. All the shout-outs were fun. Even in jokes that, you know, some people who aren't into the show might not get, I still love them. It was really fun to hear Derpy talk. The freaking music section, I love that music session with Vinyl and Octavia. Just, I love the episode as a whole. So, great episode. Definitely an insta-fave. Loved it. Episode 10, Princess Spike. Okay, Princess Spike. Okay, so I've gone on record saying that there are only 2 episodes of My Little Pony that I absolutely hate. And I've already said what those 2 episodes are. However, I think this one is the 3rd. Because this episode is just so enraging. Oh my goodness. So recap. This is the episode where Twilight arranges this festival in, is it the Crystal Empire? It might be Canterlot. In one of those. She arranges this meeting kind of thing. But she loses a lot of sleep in doing so, and she just has to take a big nap. And Cadence puts Spike in charge of making sure she's not disturbed. Spike does that, but a lot of decisions need to be made, and they need to be made by Twilight. Since there is no second in command, and Spike has to do his job and make sure Twilight isn't disturbed, he makes the decisions. And the episode is him making decisions for Twilight, and those episodes backfiring on him. And the moral is that, what's the moral? Don't let power go to your head and make a mistake, something, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I despise this episode because so much fault is put on Spike for doing his job. I hated watching that. This is the episode that makes me despise Cadence so freaking much. Because she comes in with Spike doing the best he can, and she's like, being a princess is fun, but it's a lot of hard work. And I'm just like, why don't you do something? Huh? I was stressing out so much when they were like, oh, Spike's making it, because I knew it was going to come back to haunt him. I knew all his decisions were going to come back to bite him. I was like, there are 3 other princesses. They are at this event. Why aren't any of them doing anything? And then Cadence has the nerve to walk in and chastise Spike for doing his job, for doing what she told him to do. That annoyed me to no end. And that's when I started looking at Cadence's character. That's why I was like, wait a second, what has she actually done since that point in time when she was an active member? She hasn't done jack. You talking about it's hard being a princess. What have you done? You haven't done diddly, especially in this episode. That I do not like when the innocent are legitimately punished. It's different if it's for like a storytelling purpose, like, oh, in this world is cruel, so that's why they punish the innocent. You know, that's a completely different thing. But when the story blames somebody who's just trying to do what they were told, and it tells them you shouldn't have done that, that annoys me to no end. Because when you look back on this episode, none of it was Spike's fault. It wasn't. Yes, he made decisions that ultimately led to that stuff happening. But he shouldn't have been making those decisions in the first place. He was just trying to do the job he was told to do. Twilight should have had a second in command, or one of the princesses should have stepped up. So yeah, I feel really strongly about this episode. I'm thinking I'm going to say I hate it. I honestly didn't feel that way until I was making this video about it. I've always considered this just at an insulted level, but I honestly think I hate this episode. Because I've said before, I have a soft spot for characters like Spike, servant characters. And to see him punished for having that mentality, for just wanting to serve, and seeing other characters on their high freaking horses. Yeah, I hate this episode. Episode 11, Party Pooped. This is the episode where Pinkie, the yaks from a foreign country, Yakistan, come in at the request of Twilight. And Twilight and the gang are having a hard time making them happy, so she puts Pinkie in charge of doing something to make them happy, because that's Pinkie's expertise. She makes people happy. But Pinkie has a hard time making them happy. And the episode further develops Pinkie's character about how much trouble she goes through just to make people happy. I like that aspect about it. I want to say the episode as a whole, though, annoyed me because the yaks were just annoying. And they were just doing all this ungrateful stuff. And it's very hard for me to see, to use diplomatic immunity as a justified reason for a character getting away with what they do. I know it's a real thing, you know, diplomatic immunity. People can do things that people who don't have that can't, but it was really annoying, and it's something I have a hard time seeing. I do like Pinkie Pie's I do like the exploration of Pinkie Pie's characters, because her character. I felt that situation where, you know, you go above and beyond to try to do stuff, get things done. You don't ask for a thank you, but then somebody does realize your hard work, and it's a very joyous feeling. It is to not want to be thanked, but to be thanked anyway, for people to realize that you work hard. And I see, here's the thing. I just went through all that nonsense with Cadence. I like that Twilight is doing all this work. As the Princess of Friendship, she's doing what I would expect a Princess of Friendship to do. She's opening borders to foreign countries, hosting events that bring people together. She is a hardworking princess. I feel like, I'm going back to the Cadence thing, just for a bit. I feel like all the princesses have earned their keep except Cadence. Because Celestia is constantly hosting these little mini parties. She's also constantly protecting Equestria during the day. We know that that's her role. We've seen her do that. Luna is constantly helping Phillies. She's constantly going into their dreams and helping them out, and she protects them during the night. Cadence does protect the Crystal Empire, but she has gone on record saying what a boring job that is. And she doesn't host anything, because we've seen the closest thing we've seen her host something is the Equestria Games, but we know Miss Harshmoney did all that work. And here we have Twilight, who is hosting so many things, just going out of her way to be a good princess. So when you tell me being a princess is hard work, don't show me Cadence. Please. Twilight is a much better example. Show me Twilight, or make Cadence do something. Okay, let's move away from Cadence. If we have to, we will come back, but for now, let's move away from Cadence, okay? Episode 12, Amending Fences. Holy the dongles. Okay, if you know about me from my streaming channel, you know how I feel about this episode. This is the episode that made me start doing reviews on My Little Pony. This is the episode I wanted to talk about when I first started doing them. Because I used to rant about this episode on and on my streaming, on my Picarto streaming, and people said that they enjoyed hearing me talk about it. And so that's why I started doing it on YouTube. The reason I haven't done a review on this particular episode is because I feel Silver Quill addressed most of what I had to say about it. And then Cell Specs pretty much hit everything. She pretty much said everything I had to say about this episode. So I felt like I didn't have anything new to add to the conversation. But now we're doing the season rundown, so let's talk about it. This is the episode where Twilight realizes that she pretty much abandoned her old friends, and she feels that as the Princess of Friendship, she shouldn't have done that, so she goes back to make amends. Most of her friends they're just pretty much fine with it. They honestly don't care. They're like, you moved on, it's no big deal. But there is one person who didn't, and that was Moon Dancer. She goes to Moon Dancer, and she sees that she's not a very open person. and she realizes that Twilight realizes that that's her fault, and she tries to make amends to Moondancer, to the point that Moondancer eventually breaks down and opens herself up, and the episode ends with Moondancer opening herself up again. I have had such a negative connotation with this episode. I think I want to say this is the first episode I watched with Twitter. And by that I mean, as I was watching this episode, I was also tweeting how I was feeling about the episode. And I thought everybody was going to agree with me. But I found out that I'm one of the few people who does not absolutely love this episode. And as I said before, when you have a negative emotion towards something and everybody's saying how wonderful it is, you tend to dislike that thing even more. The reason I have such a negative connotation with this episode is because I feel it casts introverts in a very, very negative light. I feel like My Little Pony as a whole casts introverts in a very negative light, but I don't think they do that on purpose. I think it's because they're trying to constantly spread this message about friendship. They have to take this extroverted route where being open and being friendly to everybody is the best, is what they feel is the best, even though there are people out there who aren't like that. They're not open to making new friends all the time. And the thing about this particular episode that really ticked me off, it was Twilight went to Moondancer's house, and Moondancer opened the door, and she was like, she was in this very, I don't want to be friends with you mood. And I immediately related to Moondancer because I am introverted, and I don't like actively making friends with people. Sometimes you just want to do what you're doing. You just want to work. You just want to draw. You just want to do whatever it is you're doing, and you don't have time to be friendly with everybody. Go out and make friends with everybody. And Twilight was like, or somebody was like, she's just like you, Twilight. And I was like, yeah, she's just like you, Twilight, from season 1. And Twilight was like, yeah, she's just like me from season 1. And I was like, wait, you see that as a bad thing? Because Twilight from season 1 was the character I related to the most. She's still the character I relate to the most in the show. Twilight from the first episode, that's the character that's most like me. And this episode was essentially saying, oh, that's a bad thing. Essentially, Twilight looked at a person, said, oh my goodness, they're an introvert. There must be something wrong with them. As if being an introvert are symptoms of something being wrong. Now, I know what the episode was trying to do. It wasn't trying to say introversion was what was wrong. It was trying to say that she had closed herself off because she opened herself one time, and that secluded her. But the fact that Twilight looked at her introverted features and said there must be something wrong with her, and then the episode supports her on that, sends a different message. It sends a very different message. And what really, I would have been able to forgive most of the episode, but what really ticked me off was at the end when everything is said and done. Moondancer goes outside and starts playing this sport with these girls, And to me, that shot was basically saying, hey, look, she's doing extroverted stuff now. She's okay now. And that final note was like the final nail, man. I was so stressed that I saw that. I was like, really? That means she's okay. Introverts do not do that when they start opening up. They either A, start doing slightly more extroverted stuff. They don't just go outside and start playing sports. Or B, they keep doing what they're doing, but they do it with people. That's what an introvert does. Not just go outside and just, oh, I'm suddenly an introvert. I'm suddenly an extrovert. I suddenly want to do all this stuff. Just, no, man. And again, I don't think the MLP staff are doing this on purpose, but I still gotta vent my frustration. And I've told this story before, but I'm gonna tell it again. When I was in high school, I slowly started becoming an introvert. And when my senior year came around, all these people who I thought were my friends started outcasting me. Like, I would go to these different senior events and nobody wanted to hang out with me. And I thought about it. I was like, oh, it's because I'm an introvert. I didn't know what it's called back then. But I was like, oh, it's because I'm antisocial. I don't hang out with these people. I don't I'm not very active. I don't do all this stuff. I'm going to be an extrovert. Again, I didn't know what it was called back then, but that was basically what I said. I'm going to be more active. I'm going to be more outgoing. I'm going to be et cetera, et cetera. And I was that when I went to college. I started being more active, and I was really good at it. I was really good at it. People wanted to be my friend. People were inviting me to all sorts of things. Like, I was like a natural extrovert. But in the end, I hated it. Not that there's anything wrong with being an extrovert, but I hated being an extrovert. I hated being so outgoing. I hated making friends with everybody. I hated just expending my energy that way. I just wanted to sit down and pull the energy in and do activities by my lonesome. That's what I wanted to do, and maybe with a few friends. You know, the typical introverted response, you know. So I decided that, you know what? Even if I'm not going to be the most popular person in the world, I want to be an introvert. That's what I want to do. I proudly said that for myself. So that's why I am so heavy to defend something that talks against introversion. Because it's something I chose for myself, even though I could have easily gone the other way. A lot of people love this episode because they said they related to Moon Dancer, that they were hurt, and because of that, they closed themselves off. Again, dealing with the fear of failure. But that didn't happen to me. I did not relate to Moon Dancer in that way. I related to her that I was doing what she was doing and I was happy. So when the episode came out and say, hey, there's something wrong with this character for being this way, I was really, really upset. So yeah. Whenever I think about it, overall, I'm just insulted by this episode. Really insulted by this episode. There is nothing wrong with being an introvert. Yes, it comes with consequences, but so do all life choices. Episode 13, Do Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep? This hit the opposite end of the spectrum. There are people out there who have huge issues with this episode, but I absolutely freaking love it, man. This is the episode where Luna, inside her dream, a creature called the Tantabus escapes, and it escapes into the dream world. It goes at first to the main Six's dreams, but then gets into the main dream world, and Luna has to unite with everybody to defeat it, and then she eventually reveals that it was something she created to punish herself, to make sure she never forgot what she did. And Twilight told her, well, if that's the case, then the only way to defeat it is to forgive yourself. And this is another episode where I related to the character so much. So far, there's been 3 episodes I've done that. Applebuck season, Equestria Games, and this episode. I have been in Luna's shoes so much where I've done something and I make myself pay for it. And my parents, they used to just laugh at me because when I was a kid, when I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to play video games until I did my homework. So I would come home. Sometimes I would forget I had homework. And then I would hop on and play video games. And I would be like, oh, geez, I have homework. And then I'd go to my parents and be like, I forgot to do my homework. I'm going to do it right now. But I'm going to punish myself and say I can't play video games for a week. And my parents are like, okay, you're teaching yourself discipline. Eventually, once I got older, I would say to middle school, they realized that I was starting to take it too far and they stopped me. But I've been in that situation. The point of that story is I've been in that situation, and I still do sometimes go in that situation where I do something something I feel is just stupid. Because what Luna did to Celestia was just stupid on her part. It was just stupid to get that jealous and to try and destroy your sister out of jealousy. And she understands that. And she says to herself, I cannot let something that stupid happen again. That's why she punishes herself. And a lot of people get on her case. A lot of people get on Luna's case for A, doing something so stupid in the first place, and B, punishing herself in a way that could endanger others. But the thing about it is, in Luna's mind, she thought she could control the Tantabus easily. That's like, I don't know. That's like you say you'll slap yourself on the wrist once a day, and then without you knowing, you slap yourself on the wrist, inspire somebody else to do something stupid or something like that. She thought she could control the Tantabus. So in her mind, Equestria was never in any danger. And so that's why I don't see as her creating the Tantabus just being something completely reckless. Even though it inevitably did lead to Equestria being in danger. I don't think she knew that. I think in her mind, anyway, I'm repeating myself now. But yeah, I completely relate to what Luna was going through. A lot of people say Celestia should have been in this episode because she was the one Luna ultimately hurt. And I can somewhat feel that that would be a more satisfactory ending, but I think it goes against the whole you need to forgive yourself. And Twilight being the one to say that Twilight is the princess of friendship, it makes sense for her to say that. So overall, I really love this episode. I really relate to Luna. And also, it was just a fun episode, being in their dreams and stuff like that. Episode 14, Canterlot Boutique. Oh, this season, man. This is when Rarity gets a new manager, and the manager's job is to make her boutique a success, and the manager does that. But she does that by making Rarity's dresses all the same, pretty much. She does what she's hired to do, but in a sense, Rarity is not following her dream. This episode, as a content creator, this episode speaks to me so much. Like, I have not been at the level of success that Rarity is yet, but it's something you constantly see content creators talking about. Of, hey, do I want to sacrifice this part of my dream so that it eventually gets to where I want it to be? And this episode, it was just so interesting to watch this artist go through this struggle. She had a dream to be successful doing what she wanted. She started becoming successful, but it wasn't in what she loved doing. That's what really made the episode interesting. It wasn't what she wanted to do. It was, and it made what she wanted to do not fun. And that's what I said about this whole Shady Doorags thing. Like, I want this to be a place where I can release my inspiration. And so sometimes I have to sacrifice what I know will make me popular in order to do that. Now, I can do that because at the moment, Shady Doorags is not like a source of income for me. It's just a hobby. I have a job outside of this. But that was her job. What Rarity's doing was her job. And you got to ask yourself, do you want to sacrifice potentially your job for potentially your dream? And that's a choice only you can make. And ultimately, Rarity said no. She didn't want to sacrifice her dream for her job. So even though what's her name? Sassy Saddles, I think it was. Even though her manager was doing exactly what she hired Rarity to do, or what Rarity hired her to do, it wasn't what Rarity had envisioned. I can say that there were both faults on. There's faults on the manager's side for when Rarity was about to say welcome, the manager just steps in and does it for her. You know, that's an easy mistake to make, but again, it was a mistake though. She shouldn't have done that. And Rarity shouldn't have made that unique dress. That wasn't what the customer ordered. Blah, blah, blah. A lot of things I can say about it. But ultimately, it was a really good episode and one I highly enjoyed. Episode 15, Scare Master. This episode. This is when Fluttershy attempts to participate in Nightmare Night. Her logic is that she goes out because she forgot something. I don't remember what it was. And that's the only reason she goes outside. And she bumps into Spike, and Spike is happy to see her. And he says, I know your friends will be happy to see you too. And that convinces her to give Nightmare Night a try, and I like that. It wasn't peer pressure, it was that she thought she could have fun. She thought there was a chance she could have fun. And she called back on the episode with the Pony Tones, Philly Vanilli. And she was like, just like then, I could have fun. And so she tried to do baby steps, like they said before, but it didn't really work. And that part actually kind of annoyed me when she was doing the baby steps. Especially when she did the tea party, it was really awkward. But then after that, she was like, you know what? No more baby steps. We're going to go do this all the way. I liked that. I really liked that. I liked that she made a decision and she did it firmly. And she turned out to be really, really, really good at Nightmare Night. And then this part. Again, another one of my absolute just favorite parts of MLP. It's up there with Flight to the Finish. It's not there, but it is up there with Flight to the Finish. Fluttershy, they realize that she's really good at this whole Nightmare Night thing. But she says, you know what? I don't like doing this. I get that I'm good at it, but I don't like it. Yes! I was just explaining earlier, that's how I was when I went to college, about extroversion. I feel like this episode is a great balance with Amending Fences. Like, to me, this made up for Amending Fences. And if you remember that video I was talking about with Cellspec, she actually mentions this episode. And I agree. This episode is why I don't feel that MLP is intentionally discouraging introverts. Fluttershy is actually the reason I feel they're not doing that, because Fluttershy as a whole is a good example of an introvert. So overall, just really, really like this episode. And I really do like the moral. You don't have to do something just because you're good at it. Okay? If it's not you, then why should you do it? Episode 16, Rarity Investigates. This is the episode where Rainbow Dash gets accused of a crime while she's at the Wonderbolts thing or whatever. And Rarity becomes a detective and tries to prove her innocence. Now, this episode would be a meh episode for me if it wasn't for two things. One, the Wonderbolts attitude. Like, the Wonderbolts accuse Rainbow Dash of this whatever crime with no evidence, and they say, fine, if you can prove your innocence, you can be in the show. That's not how it works! It's innocent until proven guilty. Like, what in the mess are y'all going through? And the other thing, I said two, it's actually three things. Two, who the culprit turns out to be. I mean, you can pretty much tell from the get-go who the culprit is, but even still, I did not like that they made this person the culprit. It annoyed me. I don't know why I'm pretending like I'm trying to save spoilers. I already know, you guys already know there's going to be spoilers. It was the old war vet guy. It was him, and I was just like, come on, can we stop putting military people in bad light? Really? Like, I was like, this doesn't seem like something a military person would do. Just whatever. And the final thing that really got to me was, I hate it. Alright? The 3 C's of fiction, character, continuity, consistency. I hate it when something says, oh, this character can't do this, and then in order to solve a situation, the character does explicitly what the show said they could do. I thought Rainbow Dash was a good flyer anyway. This episode goes out of its way to say that Rainbow Dash is only good at short distances. She's not good at long distances. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Okay, I guess I learned something about Rainbow Dash. I thought she was good no matter what. I mean, she flew 500 laps like it was nothing, but whatever. And then at the end, they're like, oh, whatever that orange-haired girl's name is, she's such a far distance, you'll never be able to get there and back on time. And she's like, well, I guess I'll just have to try. And I'm like, no, you just said in this episode she wasn't good at long distances. Excuse me. That she wasn't good at long distances. Now you're saying that there is a record distance that no one else has flown before, and you expect me to believe that Rainbow Dash can do this when you just said she wasn't good at long distances? That means nobody else who was good at long distances could do... No! I am not going to believe that. No. So, yeah, overall, I don't like this episode. I'm not sure exactly where on the don't like I'm going to put it, but it's somewhere down there. Episode 17, Maid and Manehattan. This is where Applejack and Rarity are sent by the map to Manehattan to solve a friendship problem. And the friendship problem turns out that a park needs a charity work, and Applejack and Rarity help the charity place, whatever. It's overall a meh episode, but like I don't know why they decided to put 3 Rarity episodes so close together. Like, I think the last episode, Rarity Investigates, could have been somewhere else. I don't know why they did that, but overall, I just feel meh about this episode. Whew, we got another season where I'm just doing a lot of talking. My throat needs a lot of clearing up. Episode 18, Brotherhooves Social. This is where Big Mac attempts to bond with Applebloom by being her big sister in the Sisterhood Social. This is where like he dresses up as a female, and he gets a lot of speaking roles in this one. This episode is overall meh. I mean, it is a sibling episode, but it's not really one that resonates with me personally. I don't have a younger sister. I have an older sister, an older brother, and a younger brother, so I can't really do anything about this episode. Overall, the episode is just meh. I mean, a lot of people wanted Big Mac to get a lot of speaking roles. I don't really care about that. I was fine with him saying yep and nope all the time. I realized he did get a big speaking role in the episode, what I consider to be my favorite episode, but it's whatever for me. Episode 19, Crusaders of the Lost Mark. Yeah, I did a review on this episode. And it's one of the episodes I said I absolutely hate. And I still feel that way. This is the famous episode where the CMC help out Diamond Tiara in realizing what her cutie mark actually means. And at the end of the episode, they realize that their true talent is discovering what other people's talents are. And because of that, they get their cutie marks. I guess I'm just going to have to say what I said in the review, and that's pretty much that. I hate this episode. I really hate this episode. The way to get me to hate something is to go against the 3 C's. That's the good way to get me to hate something. A lot of people hate things when they don't make sense, or they don't they have unlikable characters. Not me necessarily, but when you go against character and continuity, like, I have such a hard time with that. And this episode just spat all over character and continuity. Diamond Tiara, they just ruined her character with this. Like, she may have been a bully and kind of a generic bully, but she was her own bully. She was her own character. She was doing what she did because that's who Diamond Tiara was. She didn't have an influence telling her to do this. Her dad was actually a nice guy. I liked that about Diamond Tiara. And then they were just like, nah, it's her mom. Her mom's making her do all this. She doesn't actually want to do this. And I'm just like, no, she was her own character. Like, people have told me when Diamond Tiara eventually becomes an adult, she is not going to do well in life because she's so mean. And I've told those people, no, being mean does not necessarily, you're not going to do well in life. Diamond Tiara is very good at getting people to do what she wants. She's going to go very far in life. Just because she's not nice doesn't mean anything. And I like that the episode reinforced that Diamond Tiara's talent was getting people to do what she wanted. That part I really like. I also really like the songs, which is something I also said in the review. I really love the songs. We'll Make Our Mark is one of my favorite songs of the show, and there is a moment in it that actually makes me tear up whenever I watch it. Whenever Rarity is when Rarity is swinging to Sweetie Belle, and the older sisters are all congratulating the younger sisters, like, that really gets to me. When somebody you respect, like, looks at you and is like, hey, you inspire me, like, that is a feeling. That is a feeling. But overall, man, it annoys me. So this episode, I have such a burning hatred for, because yeah, they messed up character and continuity. Yes. But with the CMC, we've been waiting so long to see what the CMC's cutie marks were going to be. And they, instead of going with continuity with what their actual talents are, they made something up. From now on, the CMC are going to have incorrect cutie marks. They weren't supposed... The previous episodes do not support the CMC's cutie marks. That annoys me. They have the wrong cutie marks. So yeah, overall, I hate this episode. I really hate this episode. To me, it feels like they just gave... They completely made up a bunch of stuff about a bunch of characters just so they could give the CMC the cutie marks they wanted to give them for the excuses they want. Because they just wanted us to keep calling them the cutie mark Crusaders. That was it. And now we have to live with that from now on. That annoys me. It really annoys me when you mess up continuity so that we have to live what you want from now on instead of doing what the story would naturally tell us to do. Episode 20, the one where Pinkie Pie knows. This is where Pinkie struggles to keep the secret that, what's that guy's name? Shining Armor and Cadence are going to have a baby. Which I guess was a pretty good way of revealing that they're going to have a baby without insulting the audience. Because if they hadn't told Pinkie Pie at the beginning, then we'd be constantly saying throughout the episode, oh, they're going to have a baby. Oh, it's so obvious. Come on, Twilight, think about it. They're going to have a baby or something like that. It's an overall meh episode for me. I don't really care for this episode too much. I don't like that they retconned Applejack because she was a ridiculously adorable baby. I don't know why they felt the need to retcon her. Yes, I do, because they wanted to make freaking Flurry Heart, and they wanted to give her big eyes. But yeah, overall meh episode. Episode 21, Hearthbreakers. This is where the apples celebrate Hearthwarming Eve with the pies. This episode was just complete cringe for me. I just could not stand this episode. Freaking Applejack just trying to force her traditions on other people. I mean, I guess it's the whole tradition versus doing things new debate where Applejack really felt like her traditions were the best ones. I mean, she specifically says, some traditions are better than others. It annoyed the mess out of me. Like, when she said that, I said, really, Applejack? Really? And that's what this whole episode just was to me. I was just annoyed. I know that the episode was trying to say that Applejack was wrong. That's the whole point of the episode. But I was just annoyed by the whole thing. Episode 22, What About Discord? This is where Twilight goes to do something. I don't remember what it was. But she goes to do something, and when she comes back, she realizes that her friends... excuse me. Her friends are all closer to Discord, and they all have this inside joke. And she wants to figure out why. And it inevitably leads to her being jealous of their relationship with Discord. This is what I like to see Discord doing. You know, manipulating people. He specifically got closer to the main five so he could teach Twilight a lesson. And I said this before, I like when Discord uses his chaotic nature to teach lessons, to be good. I like that. Because it seems like he's being bad, but he's using it to be good. And that whole part at the end where they try to turn it around on Discord, I didn't really like that too much. I really don't like seeing Discord get played. I don't know, maybe that's just me fanboying, but I don't like seeing him get played. But, you know, it was all fine and dandy. They all had a big laugh and blah, blah, blah. But I really like this episode, mainly because this is what I want to see Discord doing, and I don't... In the newer seasons, like, we don't get a lot of him doing this. This is what I feel is his best role. Episode 23, The Hooffiels and McColts. This is where Fluttershy and Twilight, they're sent to the middle of nowhere by the map to solve this war between these two families. You know, we've had, you know, 2 for 2 for 2, like I said before. 2 ponies going one place, 2 ponies going another, and now we finally got the last 2 going to the final place. This episode's overall meh. You know, I guess this is an overarching... I said the last season was the only one to do an overarching. And the reason I said that is because this overarching doesn't really feel like it goes anywhere. Like, it's just them going places. And it's just solving problems. It doesn't feel like it's leading anywhere. The last season felt like it was leading up to something. And it did. It did lead up to something. This is not leading up to anything. So anyway, Fluttershy and Twilight figure out what's going on, and they pretty much solve it. It's nothing too interesting in my opinion. It's a meh episode overall. Episode 24, The Main Attraction. This is where Applejack's old friend Rara has become a pop star, but Applejack is worried that her manager is taking advantage of her. I think overall I feel meh about this, but there are some negative parts that stick out for me. Because, you know, it kind of felt like the episode was saying certain type of music is better than another type of music. I know that wasn't what they were going for at all. It just felt that way because, you know, Rara was one way, you know, when she was on stage doing it the manager's way, and then she was a completely different way. It was like, this is the real her, and everybody loved it. It's like, see, they love the real you. Again, I know that wasn't their intention. They weren't trying to say one specific type of music is better than another. It's just, it felt that way. But overall, I feel pretty meh towards the episode. I know it was trying to yank at my feelings, but it really didn't. It really didn't too much. Episode 25 and 26. The Cutie Re-Mark. This episode. This freaking episode. This episode. Okay. This is where Starlight Glimmer comes back. And she goes back in time. And Twilight and Spike immediately follow her, and they find out that Starlight is going to stop the sonic rainbow that Rainbow Dash originally did, which caused all the main 6 to get their Cutie Mark. And she does it constantly, and every time she does it, a different horrible future happens. Because if the main 6 don't get their Cutie Mark, then somehow they never wind up saving the day from such and such threat. And, okay, let's start with the things I like about this episode, because it's, once I get to the things I don't like, it's gonna be a long day. Basically, I like that we got to see all the villains again. I did like that. I like that they came up with a situation where we could see all the villains again. The most interesting world to me was probably Sombra's, and seeing the ponies at war. That was really, really interesting. Somebody, I think it was Sketchy, described it as Fallout, and said it was boring because of that. And to me, that's just kind of insulting to the person who came up with the concept. Because Fallout depicts an after-war scenario and a post-apocalyptic scenario. They weren't in a post-apocalyptic scenario with Sombra They were in an apocalyptic scenario. The world was at war. And if they didn't stop it, it would end. And to me, I make such a big deal of that because that's a very different situation than like Fallout Equestria would do. I've never read Fallout Equestria, so maybe it is exactly like Fallout Equestria. But a post-apocalyptic place is very different from an apocalyptic place. It has a very different atmosphere. Yeah, that's I like that. I'm trying to think of anything else I might have liked. Nah, I can't think of anything. So you know what it's time for? The bad. Holy dongos! Do I hate this episode? Oh my goodness gracious, I hate this episode. So let's start off with the things. The main aspect, the main thing you know I'm going to talk about. Freaking Starlight Glimmer. Jeez Louise, they destroyed this character. In 2 episodes, they destroyed what I consider to be one of the best characters of the show. Like, legit. I cannot believe how much they wrecked her. First thing they do is they make her just as strong as Alicorn freaking Twilight. I have been wanting to say this for so long now. Twilight her talent is magic. Twilight's talent is magic. They established that in Ghostbusters, that there's not a unicorn like Twilight. Unicorns don't often get talents. I mean, they have a magic school for unicorns, but Twilight's specific talent is magic. Saying that another unicorn could best Unicorn Twilight is not going to happen. It's not. Now, in this season, she's an Alicorn. And Alicorn, it has been established many, many times that Alicorn magic is more advanced than regular unicorn magic. Twilight is at such a high level, there is absolutely no way Starlight should come even close. Even close. And they had them dueling on an even plane. That made absolutely no sense. Twilight studies magic all the time for both fun and for her work. She has an understanding of magic that no one else does. Like, I can see Discord, maybe Luna, Celestia, and that's it. I can't even see Cadence having a better understanding of magic than Twilight. Like, it makes no sense. It makes none. Like, even if Starlight was somehow at the same level of power as Twilight, the fact that Twilight studies magic all her life at the best school in the country, directly under Celestia, it makes no sense for Starlight to be at an even level with her. And they're both super tired at the end of the fight. Just no. You made that up so that Twilight couldn't best Starlight. No. The 3 C's. Do not mess with them. Do not mess with them. This destroyed character. It destroyed the continuity, the lore of all of Equestria. And it destroyed the consistency. Remember that first episode when Starlight shot that powerful laser and Twilight blocked it instantly? Well, guess what? Who freaking cares? It doesn't matter. Now they're on even playing fields for reasons unknown. And you can give me headcanon all you want. Oh, Starlight went off and studied. You think Twilight's not studying? No. It makes no sense. And later we'll even see that the show is going to say that, oh, Starlight's just a powerful unicorn. It frustrates me to no end. It really does. That we're ignoring the fact that Twilight was the greatest magic unicorn in the world, in all of Equestria. And they just did it so bleh. Hate it. Next up, Starlight's freaking backstory. It sucks. It sucks. Starlight's backstory sucks. I realize there are people out there who like Starlight Glimmer, okay? So I'm going to try to calm myself down, okay? But you guys know how I feel about this character. This is the episode that starts it all. Starlight's backstory is so freaking horrible. It is ridiculous. And I've heard people say that real villains in real life actually have this kind of backstory where something menial happened when they were a child and that made them grow up to do horrible things. Realistic is not the same as believable. There are things that can happen in reality that is not good for a story. If what those people are saying are true, that does not make Starlight's story, her backstory, good. It doesn't at all. Starlight became evil because her friend went to a different school because he got a cutie mark. That is the equivalent of any menial thing happening to you when you were a child, upsetting you, and you growing up to seek revenge on that trivial thing. It's stupid. I was trying to prevent myself from saying this, but it's just stupid. That's the kind of backstory Doofenshmirtz would have as a joke. And Doofenshmirtz had like legit reasons to be evil. And he was a freaking joke character. I think we've established that her backstory sucks, okay? Let's move on to the next thing. And that's this whole forgiveness thing, okay? I'm not against the show forgiving certain characters, you know. Discord, I think it was a good idea. Like, originally I didn't really want him, but I see a great position for him as a good guy. Sunset Shimmer, that was the best thing they could have done. Like, I'll get to my thoughts when we get to the Equestria Girls movies, but her forgiveness was pretty horrible, but it led to a really good character. But this forgiveness upset me so much because I knew what they were going to do. I knew they were going to say, well, she's going to be a 7th character. And I'm just like, no. This character has not earned it. One, she has not earned it within the story, as in, she hasn't done anything to make up for all the bad stuff she's done. So, everyone in the story is just instantly forgiving her. Let's compare it to Sunset. You know, I'm trying to save the Equestria Girls for when I get to the Equestria Girls, but let's compare it to Sunset. Sunset had to do a bunch of manual labor, and after that, everyone didn't instantly forgive her. The only people who did were the main 5, and that's because A, they had spent some time with her, and B, Twilight had told them to. Even Twilight didn't instantly forgive Sunset. She said she would, but when she saw her, she wasn't, like, trusting of her. Like, everyone instantly forgives this character, and it's not deserved. And second, she hasn't earned it through a perspective kind of way. Like, this character has been on screen for, what, 4 episodes? 2 in the beginning, 2 as a villain, and 2 as a complex villain. And she has not earned being this main character. She hasn't done anything to earn this. And you might say, well, Season 6 is her chance to earn this. No. We should have been hearing about this. We should have been learning about her through this season. Before she had this grand revelation where we're supposed to accept her as one of the main characters. Just no. And you might be saying, well, what about Discord? We didn't need to learn that much about him. Discord is not one of the main characters. He's not considered one of the main characters. He's considered a side character. Yeah, he's considered a side character. He's at the same level as Celestia and Luna. So we are still learning stuff about him. We probably know more about him now than we do about Celestia and Luna. This episode has ruined so much of My Little Pony. And I know I sound very dramatic when I say that. I sound very melodramatic when I say that. People have gone on saying that Princess Twilight is going to ruin the show for them. They've gone on to say that destroying the library was going to ruin the show for them. When I first saw this episode, I thought to myself, this character is going to ruin the show. And the reason I thought that is because I felt that she wasn't earned. They're not putting in the work to earn this character. But I kept an open mind because, like I said, other people said that about other elements of the show. And I still feel this way. I still feel that Starlight Glimmer, this version of Starlight Glimmer, has ruined this show. I feel she's constantly bringing the show downhill. As a unicorn who is as powerful as Alicorn Twilight, she completely treads over all the continuity, all the lore we have. As this character who was just dropped in and expected us to like her, She is ruining all the flow of the storytelling. She is ruining this show. I completely feel that way. That Starlight Glimmer has ruined this show, and it's this episode that starts it. They shouldn't have rushed so fast to make her into a main character. They shouldn't have rushed with this horrible, horrible backstory. They shouldn't have rushed to make her as powerful as Twilight so that Twilight could become a teacher to her. This should have been a gradual process. I don't know why they didn't do it, but in choosing not to do it, they are currently ruining the show. So overall, I hate this season finale. I think it is the worst season finale. I think it's the worst decision the show ever decided to make. And with that, with this season, I actually don't hate this season. I actually really, really like this season. It's pretty interesting because this season has all the episodes that I hate about My Little Pony. So you would think that I would hate this season, but going through it, because I was so knee-deep into the fandom, I had a good time watching the overall season. It's not my favorite season. That's still season 4. But I do feel that this starts a downhill trend. But I'm going to say that I like the season. I really do like the season. There's a lot to like about this season. It's just the individual episodes. When I look at them individually, there are a lot that I hate. But looking at it as a whole, I don't only look at that season finale. I don't only look at Princess Spike. I look at all of it. Unlike certain other seasons where I can only think about the certain episodes about those seasons. So, yeah, overall, I do like this season. And that's that. So, thank you guys so much for watching this season rundown. This was an interesting one. So, we have 2 more to go. We have season 6 and we have Equestria Girls. So, with that, I will see you guys next time for season 6. So long. Farewell. I have to say goodbye.